Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I am super excited about my guest today. She is truly one of my favorite people on this planet. Her presence is just a blessing in my life. That's all I can say. So I'm going to read her bio, and then I'm going to bring her on, and we're going to talk about all the things. So, Shoshana French. Shoshana French's goal is to cultivate wildly successful leaders through the practical power of intuitive decision making and authentic leadership. As the founder of Simple Spirit, and that's trademarked, a keynote speaker and executive coach to $1 million and $1 billion business founders, CEOs, and business professionals, she generates unpredictable and profound results for leaders who are ready to be aligned in purpose and action. And I can vouch for that. She combines 2 decades in the professional development field with executive coaching to support visionary leaders. In her work, leaders transform their beliefs, change their habits, and deepen a connection to their own inner wisdom and self-awareness so they are free to fulfill the vision they have for their personal and professional lives. So, without further ado, let's meet Sho.
Hi, Iris. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And this, of course, so, full transparency, as you know, every freaking show we have been having like technical difficulties, and this was no different. So this is actually take 2. But hello.
Well, if Iris, you would have less powerful people on your show, then it wouldn't cause the surge of power, which then causes technical difficulties.
But why would I do that?
Exactly. So you're just going to deal with technical difficulties.
I'm just going to deal with it. It is what it is. And we roll with it. Like Kofi and I, at this point, just kind of like, we're like, okay. But I do want to start with what I started with earlier, because I think that for me, it was just, okay. So first off, Shoshanna and her husband, Steve, by extension, I'm just going to throw that out there, are 2 very calming presences in my life. And I was in LA covering Equality Fashion Week for Unique Voices, and my flight from LA to Denver went great, but my flight from Denver home got canceled, and I was in Denver for the night. And the way the whole thing happened was really stressful, and I was having a mini meltdown. And I called Sho, and she came and surprised me. And then I turned around, and Steve was there, and he surprised me. We had just a really great evening. And, I believe in like no accidents. And I really believe that we were supposed to see each other that night, because there's no other way that would have happened. And you were just such a calming presence, because I was having a major meltdown. And Denver was having like a massive, storms with hail and all this other crazy crap. It was kind of insane.
But, well, it was super fun to meet you at the hotel.
Oh my God,
to have dinner together, and you told us all the fun stories of your adventures in Los Angeles, and it was awesome.
And that dessert was ridiculous.
Stephen and I being calming presences for sure. My husband's a healer, so it's not surprising. He is very, very. His energy is very calming for most people, for myself included, which is why I chose to marry him. Right. And I was just glad that we had that time. It really was such a unexpected good surprise, even though it came from such an irritating reality.
Yes.
It's called canceled flight.
Yeah, it was. And now it's so funny because Pete Buttigieg has because my wife said this yesterday, that if your flight gets canceled unexpectedly for whatever reason, that I think you get 4 times the amount of the price of the flight. It's something crazy. And I'm like, oh, okay, if that happens again, I'm good with that. But anyway, so, okay. So you have helped me, and you're continuing to help me with my intuition and my spiritual journey and all the things. So let's tell us about Sho. And yes, I have the privilege of calling her that, and she will tell you why in a moment. But yeah, tell us about you and what you do and just all the things.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, my name is Shoshana, my full name, but my family calls me Sho. It's a nickname I got a long time ago. And my really close friends who are like family get to call me that as well. So it's a special nickname that not everybody uses, but I love it. I love when you call me Sho. So you'll hear Iris call me probably both Sho and Shoshana. But oh my goodness, I think about this every time someone's like, how did you end up doing what you're doing now? And I'm always like, we don't have enough time to tell that whole story because it is a circuitous, like crazy, not direct, not linear kind of story. But I will suffice to say that what the work I'm doing right now is probably the most aligned and most purposeful work I've done since I started my business. It'll be 20 years ago in this upcoming January. So for a long time. And I imagine that, all entrepreneurs always get this. It's like, as you are going on your kind of like own internal healing and being the best version of yourself journey, that it changes your business. Because what you were inspired to do or how you wanted to help or who you wanted to help changes as you change. Like what I did in the very, very beginning in 2005 when I started my business, there wasn't a lot of thought other than I didn't want to be broke anymore. So I started a side hustle. So like, that's it. When people have like some big, beautiful, entrepreneur story, mine was like, done being broke, started a business. Like that's it. That was like it. There was not some really big inspiration other than, I was in like this money group and she said, we're all going to start a business because multiple streams of income is how you get out of the rat race. So that's kind of how my business started. And then, all these years later, almost 20 years later, what I found is that I would work with leaders. They would come to my home and I did session work with people. And I found that leaders were they were making these decisions that to me and for them in hindsight made no sense. They were like, I don't know why I made that decision. Right. But in hindsight, I can see that I felt pressured by what other people in my organization were saying or my family, or I felt pressured by how I defined success. And so I just, made myself make a decision. And obviously, in hindsight, they'd go, man, I wish I would have chosen something different. So often they were coming to me with, how do I get out of this mess I've now caused by a series of really avoidable, like small kind of missteps that all together create kind of like a big breakdown. That's often the kind of leaders I was working with. And what I found is that when I supported those kind of leaders, their decisions were not like daily little small decisions. They were big ones, right? They were affecting their clients and family, maybe even the team they had in the organization that they ran or their own company. And that's what really started to draw me. Like, how do I help those kind of people? And, as it goes, I am not a very singular line kind of person anyway. And so helping people with one thing kind of felt boring. So about 3 years ago, I had a client ask me to do something that I'd never done before. And she was like, can you put together like a communication workshop for, like my team's annual retreat? And I'd never done it before. I'd coached lots of people about communication many, many times over all these years, but never put together like a workshop. And so I did that and it was so darn fun. Oh my God. I was like, yes, more of this.
Nice.
And I've spent these last kind of 3 years trying to figure out, where does authentic communication fit inside of intuitive decision making? And any person who either runs a business that's their own or runs a business for somebody else gets that you have to have a singular like line through, who are you talking to? What's the problem that you're solving? What's your USP? Like all the marketing language.
Right.
And it took me really like 3 years and a lot of reading and study and inner work to figure out how I could fit those all together. And I feel like that's where I'm at now. So the work I'm doing right now is really fun for me because it combines all the things I love. Like it combines people trusting themselves, people developing their leadership so that their leadership really is authentically who they are. And it includes intuition. It's all those things. It combines all my favorite things together. So that's where I'm at right now. Like I said, how I got here is a crazy, wild story that is definitely better over shots of something.
And we haven't done the shots yet. I know the story, but we haven't done the shots yet. We may have to change that when I'm in Denver next time in a few months. But it's so funny because, when I remember the first time we talked when it was on Zoom. And, I just remember there are certain people that you click with, but then there's other people that it's like a clicking on a different level. It's just like a whole different level. And I feel like that's what happened with us, because I remember after the first time we spoke, I was like, oh, I need more of that. It was just like, I needed more of you. And, we just started, staying in touch. And, I hired you for, a couple of things and, and my intuition now, it's like, it is so, let me rephrase that. I listen to my intuition now. Like when I get that alarm, I listen to it rather than going, is that really what I think it is? It is. So, and that was a really big thing because there were so many times that I would get that gut feeling and be like, you're overthinking it. Just go ahead and do it. And it's like, no, when you get that gut feeling, you listen to that gut feeling. You don't override that.
It's rare. It does happen, but it's been pretty rare in 20 years of teaching people about intuition. I've trained almost 11,000 people. So a lot of all different kinds of people and 23 countries and all different walks of life. And it is rare that I meet someone that doesn't have some experience where their intuition was talking to them, whether it was like a huge warning, like don't do that, don't go out with that person, don't sign that contract, or like what my friend calls a download, like a creative idea where no solution was before, like, oh, that's what I could do, right? Or like that kismet of meeting somebody and having that instant experience of knowing, and then that's the person that you end up going to business with or marry or whatever. So it's rare that I meet someone who doesn't have that experience. What is more common are all the ways that we talk ourselves out of listening.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not a singular thing. There's not one reason why we don't listen. Yeah. There's a bunch of different reasons why we listen, why we don't listen. And so mostly my work is training people to turn up the volume on that inner voice. And they're all different. Like, for you, it's a gut. For me, it's not a gut. For me, it's definitely a knowing or like a picture in my mind of what the right choice is, or what I call is like, I get fuzzy when I think about doing something and like try to picture it because I'm so visual. And if I can't get a clear picture in my mind, whatever it is I'm thinking about either is not going to happen or it shouldn't happen. Wow. But that's like, 30 years of training my own intuition. But That's really like my work on the planet is about intuition, but it's also about people trusting themselves. It's about being able to recognize that lots of well-meaning people in our environment, whether they're staff or our beloveds, like our spouses, our families, or even just trusted people in our community, are giving us all this feedback about, what would be a good idea to grow our business, be healthier, have the best vacation possible, the next best book to read, all those things. But if we listen to all of that, it can become like a cacophony of noise.
Sure.
because not everybody agrees. Like if
Right.
I ask someone like, what's the best pizza place in Colorado? I'm going to get 15 different answers.
Right.
So how do I know which one, not which one is the right one, but which one is the right one for me?
For you.
Which one is the one that works for me? And that's really what intuition is about. It carves away extraneous information that's not useful to us, that doesn't align with us from that which we want to connect to and trust. And when you become an intuitive decision maker, that's what you do. So I love teaching leaders to do that because then they encourage other people to do the same.
Yeah. And I've been telling people, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And and this was recent too. I did something that wasn't a hell yes, and now it's going to be a no, which is, I feel pretty empowered. I'm a little nervous about it, and I can't talk about it right now. But at the same time, because it's been like, I'm not going to say a crutch, but I think it's just been something that I've been so used to. And to know that it just isn't, it's not the right time because of a certain person, I'm okay with it. It's like, okay, I'll take a break for now and whatever. And, we'll see what happens in the future. But it was really interesting that this time it was like, it's not a hell yes. This is definitely a not sure, not going to do it. But okay, so I'm sitting here taking my chucks off. So sorry about that. Okay,
get comfortable, Iris. We're having a conversation.
I am getting comfortable. I wish I could be in the living room, but the dogs would eat the microphone and all of that. But it's so funny because you have this. This really easy way of that when people work with you, it's very comfortable. And even, because, I'll say the word woo, we know how we feel about that. But, when you're working within for me, a realm that you're just dipping your toes in finally, right? And like we joke around and I say, I'm, witch light. But I have to tell you something funny that happened yesterday, but, I'm witch light. And for me, it's just been this journey of discovery, listening to my intuition. And I'm curious, right? I'm curious about the things, we're going to be working together now on other stuff. And I'm just really curious, right? Like I want to learn. And I feel that for me personally, I'm on this journey and you're a huge part of that journey. And for other leaders out there, right? And, I think that there are a lot of people that don't know what they don't know. And that when you are a leader, it's hard to admit that you don't know what you don't know. Right. And especially, I'm CEO of my business, but it's a small business and I'm not taking anything away from it. I'm very proud of what I've done, but I'm not a corporate leader. I'm not like, that level. And so, that's got to be a whole nother, level on working with people and working with that kind of a mindset, because I think it's a totally different mindset. So how do you deal with that? Or how do you work with those kind of people?
I like to distinguish that there are like two different kinds of people, like two different kinds of groups of people that I tend to work with. So one is people who are at a stage in business where they are pressed up against like how they want to grow. And they are really, I would say, juggling what, a book they read, a free course they took, what their coach said to do, all these like different, streams of information and guidance and coaching and whatever. And none of them match. They're all different. And even worse than that, they tend to be conflicting. So if you're a business owner and you went to the internet right now and you type something like best way to create a pipeline to meet new clients, you would get like 11,000 Google hits, probably more than that, right? And if you just scroll through a few pages, you're going to see some people say like email, and some people say, you know, live presentation or webinar, all the different things. And the truth is, all of those things work for the people they work for, and they don't work for the people they don't. So how do you know which of those that you are? So to me, if you're an entrepreneur, being an intuitive entrepreneur is being able to tap into this inner knowing, connected to your business, connected to your vision. And when you connect those two things together, you can look at these other opportunities to grow your business and know which direction to go. So it's really like developing yourself as an intuitive decision maker for those 500,000 decisions that you have to make every day to grow a business. So that's like entrepreneurs of a particular size business is one kind of group, and they work with me in like a group format. We work together inside of the intuitive entrepreneur. But then the other kind of people I work with are CEOs. Now, there are some people who are definitely, I would call them CEOs. You're a CEO, but you may not relate to yourself as like a CEO in your everyday. You might more have the mindset of entrepreneur, and like that's kind of the distinguishing mark. But when I work with CEOs, their leadership is not about all of those 500,000 decisions, like those day by day decisions. Mm-hmm. Often when I work with bigger leaders, their sort of thing is the big vision. And then they have a team to help them fulfill the vision. So the connection is from big vision to team, and that back and forth kind of connection. And learning how to notice the pressure they feel between what others say should happen in an organization, the pressure they feel at home to be present for the people who love them there, and the pressure they feel about how to take good care of themselves. So their health is intact, their, you know, juiciness in life, their excitement and joy in life is intact. So they can bring the fullness of themselves to the organization and to the other people who count on them in life. So some of those people who are millionaire and billion-dollar founders, these million-dollar and billion-dollar founders, they deal with the same stuff as everybody deals with, but the scope of the decisions they're making are broader, right? So like I work with a chief deputy director at a small municipality in the Denver metro area. And when she makes a decision to do an initiative, it affects 245 people.
Right.
So her trusting herself and aligning in the vision she has for what it's like to work for the city government, for her, it's really like about creating a culture of people matter, communication matters, and collaboration matters. Right. So coaching her is about when she trusts herself, she affects large numbers of people. Because I just think about that, right? It's herself. It's the people that directly report to her like other, you know, directors, and then their staff. And eventually it lands to the public. Like some of her staff work for the DMV. Right. And so when she empowers her staff, she's actually changing the experience of the hundreds of people who come in every day to get their driver's license or a new title, right? Right. Like on that level, I'm training people literally the same way. It's all the same thing. It's still intuition. It's still about honoring your own leadership and stewarding other people's leadership. But we're trying to turn the pressure off, because sometimes when you are a leader and your decisions have bigger impact, your intuition is not about what's happening here, but using it for what's happening here. So that's kind of the difference.
Right. I like that a lot. And usually, you know, you go to DMV and everyone's cranky. Right.
Right.
I mean, they're just like not happy. So I like that, you know, you work with her and then that kind of trickles down and helps them. So we know what made you decide to become an entrepreneur. What advice would you have for somebody who is thinking about becoming an entrepreneur?
Oh, goodness. I have advice, but it's 3 parts.
Okay.
Numero uno, find someone you respect who has a business that is doing well and ask them, like, what's your why? Why did you start a business? That's like one. Because when I started mine, my coach said, I want you to go find someone and not mentor like they were my coach, but find someone to actually like advise you about what they did in the industry you're looking to join, how they're building and growing their business, and what it's really like. And when I went and talked to someone, I thought she was super successful, and she was, but it was a side gig, really. And she'd never made enough money to have it be her primary source of income. Okay. And that was a shock to me because I had assumed, right? So like that would be one piece of advice. Go find somebody who is a business owner and have them in all honesty tell you what it's like. Because I personally feel like if you're going to do this, like be eyes wide open.
Oh, 100%.
It's not easy being a business owner. It's just not. So it's good to know that before you go. And it's not hard in the way you're probably thinking it's hard. So like ask someone else to tell you so you have a clear view. That's number one. Number two, be really, really clear what your why is. Why? Like not why, like I joke that mine was about not being broke. And it was about that, but it was also about the autonomy and what comes from having stable financial means. Mm-hmm. Like I wanted the ability to have more choice and freedom in how I lived my life when I made more money. Like that was a big why for me for a long time. That was a really good why when running a business was hard. I'm like, no, I'm making more so that I can go on vacation and I can have nice things. Like It's what did it for me for the first 4 years. And then the third part of what I would say is do really deep thinking about what structure of business works with your life. Because some businesses really focus on relationship building and then building a team. And if you're a huge introvert and you don't have a big community, don't do that kind of business. Right? For some people, they don't want to build a business. So maybe you're going to buy a franchise, right? Like that's not a bad idea. Maybe you have an idea for a widget. And so you need to go through that process and you want to get that widget to market. Well, then go look up how people bring technology or, things to market. So anyway, I would say essentially what I'm saying is arm yourself with sufficient information so that when you approach running a business on those days when you have a terrible cold and you don't get PTO because your boss is a pain in the ass.
Right.
And you have to work anyway, that you can reflect on, I'm living the life I wanted to, and that's why I'm doing this.
Right.
And there's going to be hard days. And do I have that person I called originally? Can I call that person and be like, today is really hard. What do you do on days like today? Community, clarity about your why, and a structure of business that other people use that works. And that works for you, really.
Yeah. And it has to work for you. And it's, it's funny when you say, your boss, I tell Heather all the time, I'm like, man, my boss can be an asshole sometimes. Because there are days that you have, and I had it last week, and I don't have them often anymore. But there are just days that you're like, oh my, why the hell did I choose this? Right. It's just why am I doing this? And for me, and especially last week, it was, I wanted to take a day off. I didn't want to work, but I had so much stuff that I had to do, and it was for my clients, right? So I'm not going to take the day off. And I remember I was in the living room playing with my pups because I didn't want to work. And so, I throw this red thing. It's this Kong pull toy for Piper. And my right bicep is freaking big because we throw it 100 times a day, not even thinking about it. Right. And then Skylar likes tennis balls. She has to have the actual tennis ball. So, I'm throwing that with her and I'm like, I really don't want to do anything. And then, my boss was going, you have to get this, and this done. Get your ass off the couch and get inside. And I'm like, stop being an asshole. I'm going to sit here and do whatever, right? And this is the conversation that I have with myself. And I sat there and I just started laughing hysterically because I knew that I had to do what I had to do, but at the same time, it was like I was able to take that break, be cranky about it, not want to do it, and then want to do it because it was like that realization that, yeah, your boss is an asshole, but you're the boss and you have to go get the stuff done. So go get it done. And I hate to say the word boss, so, leader, but yeah, it was and it was one of those days. And I had 2 days like that last week. The second day was Thursday and I didn't want to do anything. And I didn't have a lot to do on Thursday. And it was like, I'm going to take a half a mental health day and assess, why am I feeling like this? Right? Like, what is making me feel like I don't want to do this right now?
Absolutely.
And I sat down and I assessed and I figured out what it was. And I went, oh, okay. So I needed to make an adjustment. And I did. I wouldn't have been able to do that 3 years ago, 4 years, however many years ago, right? Because as entrepreneurs and as business owners, we grow and we learn. And part of that is what you've taught me. It was listening to what my body needed, what my soul needed at that point, and look into, why. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Like really, it's like, I think that you and a lot of other people don't realize you have this like ripple effect. And it's not like you throw the boulder into the lake and everything splashes. It's like you drop a pebble and you drop the pebble and then it just, kind of spreads out. And that's what you've done. And I know I went on a tangent, but it's just to kind of show the effect that what you do has. Because a big part of me coming back to me was, the work that I did with you. So
thank you for saying that. I love that. It's perfect. What you just said is perfect, because what I wanted to say to people listening is that an updated reason, my updated why of my business. So my purpose on the planet is to have people trust themselves. And when people trust themselves, this is not universal, to be clear. Not everybody, when they trust themselves, is like more present and more kind. But in general, when I work with people, the first place they're more kind is to themselves. Mm-hmm. And almost always the second place that they are more understanding, compassionate, and patient is with the outside people. Yeah. And so I'm not here to fix people. Like that could be, I think people sometimes relate to like coaches. That may be like our job. We're fixing breakdowns, or we're fixing problems. Like we have solutions to problems. But mostly my why for the work I'm doing right now is, how can I empower leaders to trust themselves, fulfill the vision they have, because their visions, when they're fulfilled, are like important. They are important. Yeah. And entrepreneurs are the mavericks, right? They're the mavericks in the world, doing things that other people don't think are possible. And so I want to empower them too, because I know a lot of really great entrepreneurs, and when they're empowered, they empower their communities, they empower the people they love, they empower their clients and the customers. And so that's my updated why. For sure, I'm definitely present still to autonomy. And that word to me means not freedom like my freedom, but it's more about autonomy is having a surplus of help. So it's being able to like more help than I could need and offering more help than other people need. This is like, it might feel like a tangent, but to me, whoever's listening, if they were thinking about starting a business, the other piece when I said like have someone you can talk to is people who are really, really successful in life. If you are curious about this, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell is a really interesting book about this, which is the most successful business owners are not that because of like exceptional brilliance, smarts, or just because of the opportunities they got. If you look, that obviously all helped, but their ability to coordinate the actions of others is what has them be really successful. Yeah. So when you want to accomplish starting a business, like what you're basically doing is accomplishing getting your people together to help you literally launch something. Like when you launch a boat, when you put it out into the water, there's this quote, which is like, when the tide rises, all ships will rise. I'm misquoting it.
It's the rising tide lifts all ships.
Thank you. The rising tide lifts all ships. And so if you're part of a community and you are lifting others, it lifts all ships. And so that for sure, that is part of my philosophy in business, and not just the work I do where I get paid, but just who I am in community for other business owners. We're all connected. And when one of us succeed, we all get to succeed. And so I thank you for telling me the ripple effect. And it's the same for you.
I was trying to think of it.
I know that in your community in Indiana, like people look to you in the city where you live and trust you to be somebody who, lifts all ships. So for sure, the reason we felt that connection and the reason why, we continue to work together is because we share that outlook, which it's important to. So if you are considering starting a business, find your community, because it makes 100%. A difference.
And, I feel that the community piece is really, really big to me. And, going to get a little political for a second, but, there was a big shift that happened a couple of days ago. And I've always been, when it comes to politics, and it drives me nuts, but I've always been called to mobilize and do things, and get people together. And I've already done that. And, at the same time, I look at my business, and my business is to help other businesses grow and succeed and, excel and get their message out in a positive way. And I look at where I am in my business now, and it blows my mind sometimes that I am in the position that I'm in, and I can help people, and I can also cause a ripple effect, and I do, but I embrace that now. I used to shy away from it and be like, oh, no, that's not whatever, or, you're not a badass. It's like, no, you know what? We are badasses. We know we're badasses. We get the stuff done. And I think that that's really important. And I think as you grow as a business owner, that's, I think, where the magic happens, is when you own your stuff, right? Because in the beginning, a lot of people are like, well, I started this little business and I'm doing this little thing, but it turns into a big thing. And the people that I surround myself with are badasses. And it's no accident, and I don't go looking for them. They kind of just end up in my orbit, and it's really cool. I look at every single person that I know, and every single person that I know and that is in my circle are badasses, period, including you. I think you're one of the one of the badassest. Badassest? Is that we're making a new word? You're one of the badassest people that I know. But when we embrace our strengths and we recognize the good that we're doing and the work that we're doing and how we are putting everything out into community, I think it's a whole it's just a whole nother world. I think. So I sit here in my little office with all my little, electronics and my microphone and all the things. And I sit here and I feel like I'm on this little throne that, for lack of a better word, that I sit here and I run these things and I make these things happen. And that's the beauty of it for me, is I can sit here. I think my why, I mean, I have a couple of whys. One of my biggest whys is to be able to sit here and look at all of my clients' stuff and go, this is working. This isn't working. We should probably, tweak this. Oh my God, this is amazing. And how can I help here? Not necessarily client stuff. Now it's like, how do I help here? How do I help in the community? How can I help you find your next client? You're a coach, but you're also a friend. So what can I do to help you? And I think to be in that position, to have the connections and all that, to me, I get like that thing like right here that just goes, woo, that's like my thing. Like, how can I help? Because I truly believe everyone's like, service schmervice, but I really do believe that there are certain of us that are here to be of service. And, that's what we do. So, and that's what you do. You're like amazing at it. So, okay, more tangents. Okay. So, what is an obstacle that either you're going through or that you've overcome that other seasoned entrepreneurs might be going through?
When you're an entrepreneur and you're not punching a clock and you have problems at home, where your business is at home. So it's different, it's, there is a lack of separation, and I would say it's an obstacle I faced, and we really came out of it powerfully. But my husband had an accident in 2022 that resulted in the end of his 25-year career and being medically discharged from his job. And, that's like not the kind of thing you plan for. Not in a marriage, but also not in a business. It is now, like, planning for the possibility of not being able to work is now something we're thinking about. We're, tending to. When we tend to our money, we think about, I'm like a Pollyanna happy person. And I think thinking about those kind of scenarios feels really like feeding the negative. But it's actually like smart adulting, is to think about, how would you take care of things if all of a sudden one of the two of you couldn't work? So I think other entrepreneurs are going to deal with this, right? If you work from home and one of your kids is sick, as an example, and you had client calls all day long, and now you have to go and take care of a puking kid and manage your client calls, and you're a solopreneur, like that's hard, right? So I would say that the obstacle was in being transparent and vulnerable with my clients. And that was a lesson in and of itself. It was being honest about what was going on without making it somebody else's burden. Because there's that real fine line.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But like just being honest and expressing what was happening, and if I had to reschedule, letting people know why. And so that for sure was an unexpected obstacle that every single entrepreneur is going to deal with. I was just on a call. We're in a group together called the Dames, this international women's.
Everybody who listens knows about it. I talk about us all the time.
Yeah. And so I was on this call with a bunch of people, and one of the women on the call has a father who is quite elderly, and they need to sell the stuff in his house and find him assisted living. And what we were talking about is the difference that she has a business that's mobile, like her business is over Zoom, much like mine is. So she's able to relocate where her dad lives 8, states away, and stay with him as they do all of that while being able to work. And so it's like the plus and minus, but all entrepreneurs, you're going to deal with personal junk. And I just found the way I overcame that was just by actually, one, leaning into my community to help me. And then two, just being really transparent and vulnerable with clients. So they knew what was going on. So that's how that was.
And I think that's something that they really appreciate. I'm 100, you know me, like I wear my heart on my sleeve, and
yep, absolutely.
And if there's something going on, I let them know. And, sometimes you're going to drop the ball, and, I've dropped the ball, and I just kind of fessed up and was like, you know what, this is, and whether it was a team member of mine or not, I'm the CEO. This is my business. I dropped the ball because people appreciate that, because people appreciate honesty, because there are so many people out there that sadly aren't honest, that they've dealt with in the past, right? That when they deal with somebody who's honest and vulnerable and transparent, it's like refreshing. They're like, oh my God, thank you. And they're the same way back, right? Like I have a client who, was just in Peru doing like this 80-mile hike for 3 weeks. I don't know. She's like, to me, she's like Wonder Woman. And she lives in Denver. I think before she left, there was something going, she got really, really sick, and we were supposed to have a meeting. And she's like, hey, I know that this is an important one, but I just feel like crap today. So, are you okay with? And it's like, yeah, 100%, of course, and other people that I've worked with are like, something came up and, whatever. And they don't tell you what it is, and which is fine. You don't have to. But to me, when you're more open about it and it becomes more personal, then it becomes more personal. And I think it deepens the relationship, to be quite honest. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's that whole thing about bringing compassion to humanity and being kind. As business owners, there are times, that's like another obstacle that I overcame, was like, sometimes you have clients that are not good people. It doesn't happen all that often in my work, but I've had people like that. And like, you have to let them go. Like, you have to actually complete the contract with them and do it in such a way that is respectful, but also, be in alignment with your own ethics. And that's not easy either. In the very, very beginning of my business, I don't think I let any clients go because I
of us didn't
know better.
Right.
But you learn and then you do it. You're like, okay,
but you're also
won't do that
not
again.
in a position to be able to do that. Like in the very beginning, you need that money, right? And you don't,
Absolutely.
so you don't think about that. But now we're in the position, you and I, where if it doesn't, if a client does not align with our values, they're not a client. So, and I think that that's huge that we get to do that. And I'm like so grateful that I'm at the point that I don't have to, because I remember feeling icky. I remember like when I first started my business, I was working with this particular individual, and I was like, why am I doing this? And it's like, okay, he's paying me $3,000 a month, but still, why am I doing this? It was like, I need to replace him. And so I actively, looked for a different client to be able to replace him, because I literally felt like dirty. And it was the weirdest thing, but it was like, he's not a nice guy. He's kind of a pig towards women. Why am I acting like I really like him when honestly it's like, ew, no. And so I did. I was able to find somebody else to replace him. And, as the years went on, I made sure that conversations that I had most of the time were with people that I didn't feel icky about. And now there's just no way. Like if I feel icky, it's not even a question.
Well, I think what you're talking about is like the intersection between logic and intuition. Because sometimes there's no, like on paper, they look fine, but the engagement with certain people just feels off for whatever reason. And there is, like, for sure, there is an opportunity when you learn how to trust your intuition, to trust that sense of not quite rightness and follow that. And then sometimes it's logic, right? Like, you start having a conversation and it is quite apparent and obvious that what they're looking for and what you offer are not the same. And that's that's the thing I was saying. Like, if someone was thinking about starting a business and I said, talk to someone to mentor you about like how to get started and what it's really like, that's something someone told me. They said, if you're going to coach people, you need to have conversations before they've signed a contract to make sure you're a good fit. And no one wants to be told no. Like, I don't like being told no when I'm proposing being someone's coach. And no one likes to be told no if I've proposed being their coach and then I've heard what they're up to and I can tell they're not a good fit. Hearing no, not all that much fun, but hugely important. Fit is hugely important. Just so that I can serve. I want to serve the right fit people, that I'm the right fit too, not just they're the right fit.
I mean, it works both ways, because we might not be a good fit. And I've worked with people where I wasn't a good fit and they just wanted the website. They just wanted the thing done. And, I'm sitting here thinking, oh, this is really, really cool. And they're not, and I remember that, and that kind of, that was like, for me, ooh, okay, that kind of sucked, but all right, it is what it is. And now I try to be more, I guess intuitive, but more in tune with who I'm working with and with their body language, because the body language says so much, right? So being in tune with them and making sure, and I'll even ask sometimes, I'm like, is this working for you? Am I reading something off? And they'll be like, no, this is fine. I'll be like, okay, I just want, and be honest. And I've had that conversation actually in the past couple of months, with one of my clients, but he was just going through a really, really, really bad time, and it had nothing to do with me. And how you're like, they're not responding the way they used to. They're not, whatever, did something change? Yeah, they're going through a really shitty time. And, he opened up and he was really vulnerable with me and told me what was going on. I was like, how can I support you? What can I do to, help you? And that deepened our relationship and our friendship. And so anyway, what is something that I know you have an offering that's coming up. Do you want that to be the last thing we talk about?
We can talk about it now too. Okay. So the intuitive entrepreneur. So this is really for entrepreneurs who have been in business for at least 1 to 3 years. And they're kind of like either right before that 6-figure level or right over. And so now they're like, how do I sustain this and grow? And they're experiencing, like I was talking about earlier, just that proliferation of too much information that none of it matches. And you need help making those step-by-step decisions. Who are the experts to use? What's the technology to use? Who should I hire to do my website? Like, do I need to change my offering, right? Iris, obviously. So, it's intended to be, to train people in how to connect, one, to themselves, and then how to connect to their business as a distinct and separate entity from them. So that way you can read your business, because your outcome, desired vision and purpose is actually distinct. So kind of like having a kid, right? Like your business is like your kid, and that is a distinct and separate entity from you. So the program is called the Intuitive Entrepreneur. It's 4 months long. It's intended to be like a deep dive, 90 minutes call once a month. You get access to my online vault with everything I have taught.
There's a lot of stuff in there. I am just going to tell you that there's a lot of stuff in there, and a lot of good stuff.
There's a lot of stuff in there. Yeah. And I add new things all the time as clients request it. And then every week you get an email, and I'm guiding you every month in a particular focus. The intention, like the intended outcome, if you do that, is 1, you learn how to become an intuitive decision maker within your business. 2, you learn how to trust yourself in those moments when you feel really conflicted. And then you learn tools to get out of analysis paralysis, which totally happens to every single business owner over and over again. And then ultimately you learn how to juggle all of these conflicting, what I would call conflicting desires you have, and, goals and intentions. How do you manage your own well-being? How do you grow your business? And then how do you take care of those other people who rely on you? So that's the Intuitive Entrepreneur. It starts in September, so it's coming right up. September 10th is the first call. And really the intention is to take you through the end of the year, so that at the end, again, this is not about me coaching you on what marketing stuff to use. This is really about me helping you guide yourself towards your own inner voice, so you can trust yourself to know which marketing tool works best for you. Because no one knows you better than you, and no one knows your business better than you, period, the end. So it's really about removing all of that confusion so you can trust and either grow your business or sustain this new level of growth you've just achieved in a way that seems easier and way less of that analysis paralysis, because that sucks.
It does suck.
It's not
and I'm
fun.
sitting here like, for those of you listening, I have like this giant smile on my face because I adore you. I mean, I do. And I adore I adore how how you really help people, figure their stuff out. And being a recipient of that, I remember coming to you and I was just like, I don't know what the hell to, like, I kind of get a feeling about something and I kind of listen to it and then I don't. And the funny thing with me is like, I always know this stuff. I just need to be guided to it. And you knew that, you were like, this is, and so I will tell anybody out there who is questioning, their I'll say their gut feeling, or, not sure about stuff, sign up for this freaking thing, because it will change you. It will help you trust yourself. And in the beginning, when you're at that point, because, I was there, when you're at that point where you're just right at that, 6-figure, that's when all the, imposter syndrome shit pops up and all the self-doubt, right? And all the
freaking,
oh my God, I'm here. What do I do? And because I remember that so well. And it will change you, and it will help you. It will help you trust yourself. And as entrepreneurs, we have to trust ourselves, because we're it. Even when we have our asshole boss days, we're it. So we have to trust, our decisions. We have to trust, our instincts on who we're working with, the clients that we serve. There's a lot of self-trust that has to happen. And this will get you there, like, undoubtedly.
Yeah. If you're like making a million decisions and you're finding yourself going, who am I to make all these decisions? I don't know what I'm doing. Then this course would be for you, because we'll help you. You really trusting yourself means you're fulfilling your bigger purpose and fulfilling your bigger vision for why you started your business, whatever that why is. If you're trusting yourself and aligning with it, then you start really kicking ass. Like, just ask Iris about that. She's kicking some serious ass right now. It's because she's trusting herself and moving things forward. So I love when entrepreneurs trust themselves, because they're the ones who are creating opportunities, right? They're the ones who are helping people. So yeah, I would love to have you.
Yes, you
Just
would.
know that.
Like we're almost at an hour. This always goes so fast, and I could talk to you for like ever. So where do people find you?
Oh my gosh, I'm really easy to find. Go to my website first, simplespirit.com. That's a great way to find me. And it's a good way to sign up for my newsletter. Like, I know everybody's like newsletter,
This
email,
is like
but listen,
yes.
It's a great way to, every single week I send tips and tricks for trusting your intuition, growing your leadership. And I share my own journey because I'm human. I don't have it all figured out at all by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm a big believer in lifelong growing and learning and being the best version of yourself, which takes time and energy. So newsletter is great for that. If though you're like, no to the newsletter, you can find me on social. I'm on LinkedIn, Shoshana French. I'm on Instagram. I'm easy to find. There's only one Shoshana French. So find me, follow me. And I have a lot of resources. The one thing we didn't talk about, which I think is like, for me, the reason why I think I'm so generous with my knowledge and expertise beyond the people who pay me for it is because I was trained in that.
Let's talk about it.
I watched my grandfather, go back to school to become a therapist after being an engineer. And he was just so generous with his time and his expertise. All along the way, my pathway to what I do now is 30 years long. And along the way, I had people be generous with their expertise, be generous with their resources, be generous with their wisdom. And so, if you're not in a position to afford to work with me, okay, I will recommend resources that don't cost anything. So there is zero reason why everyone on the planet should not be tapping into their inner superpower. The power of intuition is unquestioned in my belief because I've watched people, avoid terrible circumstances because they listened. I've watched people sign extraordinary contracts that people said would never happen. I've watched the most extraordinary, really crazy, wild things happen in the 20 years that I've been training people. Everyone on the planet should be listening to and trusting and following their intuition. So seriously, find me and I will help if I can.
And she will. And I think one of the other the other things that we two have in common is paying it forward, right? And helping where we can.
Absolutely.
So, so you can find Shoshana on LinkedIn and Instagram, but sign up for that newsletter because it's not spam. It's really, there's some really good shit in there, and you get it, every week. I open it up
every Tuesday morning.
And I open it up most times. There are some times that, I don't, but if I don't open it up Tuesday morning, I will open it up by Thursday. Because it's just chock full of goodness. So thank you for sharing yourself with me and my audience. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate your presence in my life. And I adore you.
It was goodness. Thank you for having me on. Thanks for the conversation. Thanks for, I like to say, spreading the gospel of intuition.
Right, here we go. So the last question that I ask all of my guests is, what lights your fire?
Oh my gosh. There's so many things that light my fire. Today, in this current moment, I will share this. This is what's lighting my fire today. So I'm training for a triathlon, which is in September, and it's coming right up. And I knew it would take a lot physically because it's a 3-sport race, but I did not anticipate the mental fortitude it would take. I just didn't think about it. Didn't occur to me. And so what is lighting my fire is that I I put a shout out on Facebook to get some support from people who are runners. And I was like, let's see what happens. Because the running part is the part that's been really, really hard, like really hard. And I put this shout out and I got text messages. I got some WhatsApp messages. I got Facebook messages and then people responding. And there was some good stuff in there. And today I went for a run and I ran for pleasure. And it's the first time I've run for pleasure in like 4 or 5 years. And it was a completely different experience. And the running for pleasure came from like 4 people in particular, their recommendations to me. So it lights me on fire that people have wisdom to share and they're willing to share it. So that juices me up big time.
Thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to say goodbye and I'll be right back. All of you, thank you so much for hanging out for an hour plus again with me. And I hope that you all love Shoshanna as much as I do. And I feel like I say that after every episode, but the people that I have on are so special. Like people are like, how do you get so many great guests? It's because I know so many great people. And I'm, blessed and fortunate, and I am grateful for it because I get to bring them to you. So it's all kind of cool and it all comes full circle. So please like, share, subscribe, download, and review. Please give us reviews. The more reviews we get, the more our rating goes up, and we're really looking to get our rating up at this point because we want sponsors. But again, thank you all for hanging out. I appreciate each and every one of you. And until the next time we see each other, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.